Money doesn't just come from one place. It drips, trickles, flows, and floods into our lives in different ways. Welcome to Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood, a podcast that explores the power of multiple income streams. We've got merch. That's right. Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood t-shirts are officially here, and they're as comfy as they are conversation starting. Grab yours at the link in our show notes. Hey, Tony, how's it going today?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. It's a gloomy day out.
Yeah. Fall is in full swing here in the Pacific Northwest, it appears.
I
What do
like
you
the
got?
gloom, so
Yeah, and I can sit inside and work at my computer and watch TV guilt-free.
that's
So,
true. Gary says that, my husband Gary, for those who are just joining us, always says that he likes the gloomy weather because it's like an excuse to not have to do anything. He's like, when it's sunny out, like when we lived in California, it's sunny out all the time. I feel like I have to be productive.
yeah, I totally feel that. Although I have cross-country practice this afternoon, so I hope that it isn't raining at least.
Oh, yeah, I know that's not going to be as fun. So we have a fun topic today. This is an article that you found, Tony, on prediction. It's based on some data that some authors put together, entrepreneurial data, and it's helping to predict a startup success. So what kind of stuck out for you about this article when you first came upon it?
Yeah, it's an Entrepreneur magazine, the most recent issue. And to me, what stuck out is what's important to people. What do people think would be the pieces that would line them up for success versus what kind of the reality was? And it's talking about, I'll just give you the bold headlines here. It's marketing versus the product itself, honesty versus deceptiveness, and fame versus impact. So it was a lot of like when someone's getting into something, why are they doing it? And it was an interesting part of what really stood out to me. And I guess it's probably good by the author is when you put honesty versus deceptiveness when you're starting your brand. I was like, oh man, it had never even dawned on me that you're like, all right, I'm just going to start this business based off deceptiveness and even the fame versus impact. And what is the reason for getting into something? And yeah, I guess a lot of people probably do dive in because it's a way to get famous or something.
Yeah, I think we can go one by one, but I'll
Yeah.
say I definitely have a lot to say on the fame versus impact because as somebody with a background in public relations, working with a lot of founders, it is very interesting how a lot of them want to invest in the fame to start versus investing in the impact. And I think sometimes, though, that's a little bit of a toxic trait of founder circles where they're seeing like one another getting all the hype. And that hype can be like media attention, or it could just be like buzz around like at pitch conferences and things like that. You go to these like pitch events and these founders fly in from all over the world to pitch their ideas. And then there's some kind of fame and notoriety in that. And it's very interesting. But then when you watch the pitch, sometimes it's just very thinly railed garbage a lot of times. And you're like, what is this? What is this product? What are you doing? But if the founder has a lot of buzz around them, sometimes that can carry you through and get you investors. So it's very interesting, but we can get to that one. I think let's go in order. So we'll start with the marketing versus product, or I guess we could also think of it as like marketing versus execution, right? So like actually get it, like executing. So in this, it looked like in the article, these entrepreneurs that were polled were asked, what do they think is most important? Marketing, the idea itself, or the execution of it? And it noted that those who emphasized the execution had stronger performance than those who placed the weight on marketing, which I think that is interesting because I think personally, I think it's both, but maybe that's my marketing background. I'm like, there's also a lot of people, let's say, who create products, who execute, who have no marketing plan. So I think it's like there's a gray area here, right? It's not like all execution with no marketing. It's also not all marketing with no execution.
Yeah, I have to say, I've always been of the business mindset that it's all about the execution. You put out a good product, you provide good service, and the success will follow. And that has been the case in my businesses, I would say. Although I have to say I think it does depend on what business it is and what it is. And I feel like as there's more and more just noise out there, I feel like the marketing piece is becoming more and more important because it's tough to even just be seen. So if you're an established business and you have a brand name or whatever, but take this podcast, for example, right? Like we're trying to put out the best product we can. The reality is people have got a lot of options on what they listen to. And even if they do like us once they listen, still got to come across us. And so it is really interesting, that idea. And that I do feel like maybe if they do this again in 5 years, maybe this bar graph here is going to change a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it may just be industry specific. I don't know. It didn't say, like, what industries these people polled were from, correct? I don't think it didn't
No,
drill down that data so
no, they said, yeah, it was
explicitly.
7,000 entrepreneurs in the study, but yeah, it doesn't say what they are. I guess maybe they're trying to get just a wide range. And
Yeah, it could be cross-industry. For what it's worth, I feel like my opinion is you need both. But do agree that, if it's all hype with no good execution, then there's no longevity.
well,
Absolutely.
well, that might be it. I think you could probably throw up some junk or throw out some junk or whatever, market it really good, and maybe you can get a flood of income off of that. And if that's the goal, then, that's probably leading us into number two, which is deceptiveness. But I think
Yeah.
probably a lot of that out there. I don't have really any experience with this, but I know that there's a lot of Amazon products that they just get thrown up. It's total junk, but they just market it and whatever, and they sell as many as they can, and then poof, gone. Versus starting off with a drip or a trickle and turn it into a flow that has a lot of longevity to it. And I think it is both, but in my opinion, if you don't have a good product, all the marketing in the world's only going to get you so far. I've seen a lot of, I guess what I would call is maybe hollow businesses where they are just all hype. They call themselves a startup for 10 years and they're always fundraising, always raising money, but the business never actually seems to make any money.
There's so many of those.
And
Yes.
I think there's a lot of people that are successful at surviving that way.
I guess maybe that's their business model.
Right.
Is just we get this going for I definitely see that in, like, the SaaS world, like, the software as a service world. There are a lot of SaaS products that are incredible, so that's not to say that whole industry, there's anything wrong with it. But I do notice that in that world, there are a number of people who have that model. It's like they create something, it's only intended to be their business for a year, maybe 2, maybe 3 max, and then they jet. They
Yeah.
sell it off, and I guess there are enough buyers that they're tending to sell something that actually doesn't have a whole lot of intrinsic value, but there are just enough hungry people that are buying ideas or maybe buying a mailing list without knowing what the conversion is. And yeah, so that's interesting. And then so for point number 2, the honesty versus deceptiveness, that Amazon thing just snagged me. I have to go to Whole Foods and return something. I just bought a charger. It was like a data charger. I got the new iPhone, so I needed like the data charger for my car. And I bought one off Amazon, and of course it broke. And like fortunately it's past the return date, but fortunately they said I can still return it. But yes, that Amazon is a good example. Again, there's lots of amazing products on there, but there are lots of people who run businesses who just use ads and Amazon affiliate program to push a product that is complete trash, complete garbage. And that is the business model.
Yeah. And I've been in and around business for a long time now, and I've seen a ton of deceptiveness and dishonesty. And I hate to say it, but there are people that can operate that way for a long time. And I think a lot of them have attorneys on retainer and it's factored into their profit margins and they knowingly are not doing a good job. I think there's a big difference between somebody who's running a business and makes a mistake and in all honesty makes a mistake and they've got to address that or fix it or whatever versus people that they're just going about things in a shady manner. And I am a firm believer that for longevity and profitability and all those things, that you have a good product, you're honest, and that will pay dividends. However, I haven't seen maybe behind their books. I have in some of the companies, but I get the impression that there's a lot of people that have a bad product and are dishonest that are making a lot of money. And
Yeah.
it's disappointing to see. And I think yeah, there's regulators and there's things like the Better Business Bureau and all that thing, but I really think it's the general population holding people accountable more than anything. And I think that's as much as there is so much noise out there now that can make the marketing and everything, it is also easier to spread the word if there's a business that is not delivering or being dishonest. I know you're a big Reddit fan. I was just reading through and they were listing somebody was just posted, I guess, just to get everybody riled up. Where's the worst places to work in Bellingham? And
I saw that.
oh my gosh.
You're like, I hope it's not my business.
I know. That's why I was scrolling through and make sure I didn't see my name anywhere, which I didn't. But so it is easier for people. And then there's like what is it, next door neighbor and all of those things.
Oh
And,
yeah, the next
and
door.
you can't
Next
believe
door.
all the things, right? Not everybody's going to be happy. Sometimes an employee that doesn't work at a place isn't always the best source of information. But yeah, it is interesting. And just the fact that it almost wonders how, if you look at, if there's these bar graphs in the article, and I don't know, I tried to look it up. I actually get a subscription to this. I don't know if you can look it up online or not, but
We can share the article that it's online, so I
okay.
can share the link with everyone.
I was surprised at how big the bar is for the deception. It was almost like everybody felt like they had to answer that. So you almost wonder how accurate the bar graph is, how honestly someone's going to answer that, especially if the deceptive person is going to answer honestly on whether they're going to be deceptive or not.
Sure, who's gonna say that? And I think there might be two sides to that. There are people who maybe know that there's deception, and they're probably not going to answer honestly. And then there are people who I just like to call like delightfully delusional, who actually don't think they're being deceptive.
Yeah.
Like they're buying their own BS. So yeah, I imagine that the data in this particular question is skewed. And I think it brings up a good point for our audience is that like we can't control what businesses are doing. There are good businesses, there are bad businesses, and like everything in between. But we can control how we show up as consumers. And we actually, as consumers, have the most power because we vote with our dollars, right? It's like our dollars are what keeps those businesses afloat. So not to say that like a deceptive company falls all on the consumer, they should have known. But I do think that we can take more responsibility as consumers to say, okay, let me look into this. Let me make like a really conscious decision. Let's not make impulse purchases. Let's do our due diligence, whether that's looking at reviews, whether it's meeting with the people or whatever that looks like, depending on what you're buying. I think that's so important because I often see, particularly, and we'll just call back to our local, Tony and I live in a place called Bellingham, and our Reddit is always blowing up with people with lots of opinions about lots of places here. And again, I don't think you can rely on a single Reddit thread to give you the whole story. But if you're I saw this recently on there was a business that actually I was a consumer of. that many people were weighing in and talking about how the practices were behind the scenes, many ex-employees. We're not talking about one person. And so that definitely made me change my opinion about if I wanted to patronize that business or not. So I think we can do our due diligence when it comes to this. And we keep businesses in business or not. So we really have the power there. So it's just making conscious decisions with our dollars.
So so these graphs a little bit. So they break it into like these things. So there's, as far as the ranking goes, so it's like execution, how good you need to execute. And that's for raising capital and for general success. And I thought what was interesting is deception was super far to the left. So, least important. Everybody's against that. Honesty was super far to the right, super important, especially for general success. But then they put a category called blunt honesty. And the blunt honesty actually leans towards the less important. So, and then as people are answering this, there's a level of honesty in there, which I just think is pretty funny. And I think it's interesting when if you're either a consumer or a business owner and just thinking about how you're spending your money and how your customer's spending your money or spending their money, and just that honesty around money. Cause I feel like that's a lot of what this podcast is, just having those discussion, those sorts of things. And as a business owner, charging people fairly and in a way that is honest and fair and sometimes even transparent. And then, but same on the consumer side, to understand that making money as a business is not easy. That's why so many businesses go out of stop operating. And so I think that level of, and not that you need to walk in and ask the person at the gas station what their margin is on a candy bar or whatever, but I do think that it's okay to have those discussions. I have a construction company and I've had people come and talk to me about they want to lower the price, this or that. And you actually break the math down for them and they go, wait, you're not marking everything up 50%? I'm like, no, our margins are far slimmer than if someone's buying a shirt and then reselling it in their store, kind of a thing. And there's different economy of scales and all the things that go along with that. And there's reasons behind that. But so I think that's important for businesses and consumers to be having these conversations back and forth. So it's not always like a us versus them. And it really can be a team mentality around the economics that everybody's dealing with, especially with a small local business. A lot of people are literally just trying to get by, not necessarily getting rich. The last headline is fame versus impact. Everybody's starting a business to get famous.
Yeah, gosh, I hope not, because that that sounds like a losing battle every time. But yes, that is very common. I have lots of businesses that I've consulted for or been in taught large workshops where they were in the room where they led with the fame. So it was like they were putting fame as number one, meaning I want to be quoted in all of the best places. I want to win best places to work, right? So all of these different things. And so they're like prioritizing those kinds of things versus if you're going for the best places to work award, for example, it was like prioritizing the win of the award versus is this really the best place to work? And
What is
so,
it? It's a B Corp. Do you know what a B Corp is?
yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I interacted with some businesses that they were doing everything they could to get that B Corp status, which is having a
Yes.
positive impact it's like a positive impact thing, as opposed to just focusing on being a good business. They were more focused on being able to get that cert.
Yes.
So it's interesting. The headline is fame versus impact, but then like the correlating question with the graph is impact versus money. And there's none, the bar doesn't go to least at all. Everybody thinks that having an impact and making money is important, but there's very little, the graph is really small for the money and really big for the impact.
Mhm.
One, if you're going into business, you're probably going in it to make money. So I don't know that this is a totally honest
I
answer
know.
here. My other thing is it's great for a business to have a big impact. The reality is, as a business, if you don't make money, you're not going to be around very long to have an impact. And so I think that you can have it built into your mission statement or whatever you want to do, that you are going to be having a positive impact.
Mhm.
But if you're not running a profitable business, you're not going to have that big of an impact. If you want to start a nonprofit, fine, but I've had one of those too, and you still have to make some money to be able to operate. It's
Sure.
the bottom line. Everybody's got to eat. All the vendors need to get paid. Whatever widget you're selling or service you're providing takes time and money. And this is actually the scale that, goes and this is for capital raise. And I actually think these entrepreneurs are maybe a little delusional.
That's what I
I
said. Delightfully delusional again.
Yeah, if they think they're going to go into and raise money because of all the social impact they're going to have, pretty sure the people with the money that are going to help fund them, they want to make money off of their investment. And not that they don't want to have a positive impact.
Yeah.
Dollars do matter in business.
So there was some interesting statistics. I go to these pitch events sometimes. There's a female-led one in Seattle and many other places too, but I'm just speaking to this particular experience. And the founder of this event had shared, because many times when it's a mixed gender pitch, right, the men in the room are getting the funding. And so there's a lot of complaints, right, from the women as to this. It's very male dominated. Women are being left out. We're not getting the funding but we have amazing products, services, etc. So what they were saying is that there are a lot of reasons for that. But one of the reasons is that they said a lot of women-led pitches are impact driven. And a lot of and again, this isn't painting everything with a broad brush. This was just like some statistics that they had seen. And a lot of the male-led pitches were financially driven. And then the men were ending up with the money. So what they were saying is, it's not to say that there aren't other reasons. Like, we're not ignoring that there are other like gender roles and power dynamics at play. But a large piece of this is you've got to look at your pitch and what is in that pitch. And I thought that was very interesting because, yes, look who's in the room. These are investors. And do the investors care about impact? Some of them, yes. I just don't think, it doesn't seem that's going to win out over money. At the end of the day, they want to make an investment in something that's going to pay back.
And they also may not care about your impact, right? There's a lot of wealthy people out there that are having extremely big impacts by giving their money to different things or whatever they're doing. And maybe their plan is they make an investment, they make more money, then they can go have their impact however they want. I know that the way that Lindsay and I give and the way we donate our time and all those things, we choose those things very specifically because that's what we care about. And when people reach out to me with whatever they're passionate about, I'm kind of like, that's cool. I want to put my resources this direction. And so I think that's important. And if you're fundraising and trying to raise money and your social impact really resonates with someone, then maybe that will go a long ways. But I think as far as when you're making the product, when you're talking to your customers, when you're getting into business, I think it is important to understand that if you want to have a long, successful business and you want to be able to create income streams off of that, that the dollars and cents does matter. Otherwise, probably going to be applying for a job somewhere sooner than later. Yeah, I don't know. I hope people, it's a short article, but I think definitely one that makes you think. So if people want to go on and check it out. It won't take more than a few minutes of your time.
Yeah, I think it's really good. It's definitely worth a read. And then one last note on your impact comment, Tony. I think that's also really important to take note of. Not just if you are pitching investors, like their impact may not be your impact. Also for customers, because I've had clients and folks in the past who have built a business and they're like, the best part of my business is that we give back to X, right? And they have some kind of cause or some kind of impact that they're looking to do. And I think that's also important because a lot of the complaint would then become, I don't understand why people aren't buying my socks, for example, when I give all this money back to the homeless. Instead, they're buying X's socks who doesn't do any of that. And I think that's a good point. What you just made is that sometimes your customer's impact is not the same as your impact or how they want to make an impact. So it is a good thing to keep in mind for everybody is if you think like leading with impact is going to like automatically equal success, not always. I think it's a piece of it. It's a very gray area. You can make an impact. I hope everybody wants to make an impact, but yes, the dollars and cents also matter a
Yeah,
lot.
and if you run a successful business and make money and have those resources, then you can go have a giant impact. I guess it's the chicken or the egg kind of approach a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thanks everybody for joining us and helping us to or stay with us while we break down this awesome article. We'll link it for you in the show notes so you can check it out there. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. And we'll see you next time on Drip Trickle Flow Flood. Bye, everybody.